Hey there, in today's video I'm going to make a comparison between the Nike Alphafly 3, the Nike Alphafly 2 and yes, the Nike Alphafly 1. I'm making this video because I have the Alphafly 3, Alphafly 2 and Alphafly 1 and I wanted to do some sort of comparison between them. I've previously made videos just of the first run impressions of the Alphafly 3 and also versus Vaporfly 3. I linked them at the end, but you may want to watch some of those. I'll try not to go over the same ground. But yeah, as always, there's chapter markers down below, so you can skip on through to the bits you might be interested in. Let's get going. The design concept behind all the Alphaflys is pretty similar. There are some foot pods up the front, there's 40 mils of ZoomX foam, there's a carbon plate, and there's an atom knit upper. But there are significant differences between all of them. The heel drop in the first one was 4 millimeters, and in the second and third Alphaflys, it's 8 millimeters. The enclosure is much easier to get into in these particular ones. And most importantly, the weight is different between all the models. Another difference between the shoes is in the Alphafly 3, they've enclosed the outsole in one continuous piece. In the Alphafly 2, you'll see a gap here behind the foot pods, and it's the same in the Alphafly 1. And I think what they wanted to do was to have a smoother transition on the shoe, and certainly in the case of the Alphafly 3, for me, it is a significant improvement. The physical size of the base of all of them is different. In the Alphafly 3, it's 129 millimeters wide at the forefoot and 100 millimeters at the rear. The Alphafly 2, it's 129 mils, the same at the front, 107 millimeters at the back, which is much bigger. And the Alphafly 1 is, I suppose, the narrowest of them all at 125 mils at the front and 100 millimeters at the back in my size, which is a UK size 12. US men's 13. I mentioned the ZoomX foam in the midsole of all three Alphaflys. In this, the Alphafly 1, there's a 4 millimeter drop, and in the other two, the Alphafly 2 and Alphafly 3, there's an 8 millimeter drop, and that can be a significant difference. In terms of weight, the Alphafly 3 is the lightest Alphafly yet. In my US men's 13, UK 12s, it weighs 266 grams or 9.38 ounces. The Alphafly 2 is the heaviest at 308 grams, 10.85 ounces. There's a lot more foam in it. And the Alphafly 1 is 271 grams, 9.55 ounces. So yeah, the Alphafly 3 is pretty impressive for its weight loss. To put the shoes on for onboarding, the Alphafly 1 it's okay, you can wriggle it around a bit. Not the quickest shoe to put on, but that doesn't really matter in a marathon. The Alphafly 2, there's a bit of an arm wrestle has to go on to get these on. But they've changed the upper in the Alphafly 3. It's much more easy to get this shoe on and has the same level of security once it's on. So this is much improved over the other two shoes. The Alphafly 1 makes a significant sound. I was running a virtual marathon with a friend of mine, and I think he was dreading the fact he was going to have to run alongside me in this Alphafly 1. So luckily enough, after a little while we separated, but it is distinctively noisy and you can hear people coming and say, oh, there's somebody in an Alphafly 1 before you even see them. So I made a quick recording outside the house running in them at various speeds, and there's definitely improvement in the Alphafly 3, at least to my ears. You can have a listen and see what you think yourself. Great performances have been set in all three Alphaflys. The Alphafly 1 was used by Kipchoge to break the 2-hour marathon barrier in controlled conditions. He went on to break the world record in Berlin in 22 in the Alphafly 2, and then in Chicago, Kelvin Kiptum broke the men's world record in Chicago 2023. So yeah, no doubting the performance of each of the three shoes. It would be easy and tempting to think that the Alphafly 3 is faster than the Alphafly 2, faster than the Alphafly 1, and that is not necessarily the case, and it depends on the athlete. For me, certainly I find the Alphafly 3 to be much improved, and it depends on the distances. But yesterday's Olympic trials in America for the marathon were very interesting. The male winner was Conor Mantz. He wore Alphafly 1s in 2 hours, 9 minutes and 5 seconds, followed closely by his buddy and training partner, who was I think a second later, and he was in prototype Asics Metaspeed Skies, which I'll definitely be looking forward to getting when they're released. But the third athlete. Third male was in the Alphafly 3. Leonard Career. Nathan Martin came in 7th in the Alphafly 3. And Josh Izuski, I think, was in the Alphafly 3, who was 8th. So there was a lot of representation of Alphaflys, not Alphafly 2s, in the men's top 10. But yeah, the winner was in the Alphafly 1s. And interestingly, in the women's, none of the top 10 were in Alphaflys. The fastest one was the 4th home for fastest Nike athlete was Justin McLean in a pair of Vaporfly 3s. So, and there was a lot of mix of Asics, a lot of Puma shoes. I think the female winner was in Pumas, and there were some Brooks and some Adidas. So an interesting mix. But yeah, just because it's really fast on one person doesn't make it very fast on another one, which brings me to testing on myself. To compare my 3 shoes, my Alphafly 1s, 95.71 kilometers in them, 59.47 miles. I ran a marathon in these. The Alphafly 2 I mainly use for testing. It's a bit on the heavy side, 151.93 kilometers and 94.4 miles. So I've done a lot of mileage in them, but not racing them. The Alphafly 3, which I'm going to wear in Boston, there's 72.22 kilometers in them, 44.81 miles. I really like running in this shoe. And I made some slow motion and some I suppose filming with the Canon R5 earlier today to kind of try and demonstrate. And my problem in the Alphafly 1 is with the 4mm drop, what I found was later in the marathon I would sink back. So my marathon best is in a Vaporfly 3 at 3 hours 43 and 21 seconds or whatever. But when I'm running in this shoe, on shorter distances, I can get the benefit out of the forefoot or the foot pods, because I land more towards my forefoot. The faster I go, the more on my forefoot I am. And the slower I go towards the end of the race, I get to the midfoot, and then, you know, depending on how slow you're going, it sort of slides back. But in this particular shoe, what I find is when I'm hitting more with the midsole, what happens is I'm rolling onto the pods and I'm not getting the effect of landing on them. Now, what you can see in some of the slow motion video that I haven't had a chance to review a huge amount of it. I'll look a bit, but I'll show you some of it. But what you'll notice is that at the higher speeds, you can see me in this shoe. I land on the foot pod, I sink down into the foot pod, and then I push off. So I think I get a lot more benefit because this is an 8mm drop, and I think that helps me. And certainly over the Alphafly 1, whether it changes over the Vaporfly, I don't know, but certainly the changes in the Alphafly 1 really suit me. I think if you were already striking the whole way in your marathon on the forefoot, maybe the Alphafly 1, and maybe that's why Conor Mance chose them. But yeah, all of these shoes, even if you look at the top 10 in the men's and women's, small differences, the athlete is making the real difference. Which of these shoes should you buy? Well, if you're running a marathon and you're picking between these, the cost differential won't matter. There will be deals on some here or there, but for the purposes of a marathon, it's small in terms of the magnitude of the overall cost. The noise won't matter, the onboarding won't matter. None of that will really matter if you're really looking for performance. And if you're buying one of these shoes, you probably are. And there are fine margins between them. The one that I wouldn't buy for racing in is the Alphafly 2. I didn't run a marathon in it. I preferred it to the Alphafly 1 over the longer distance because I found that the increased drop from 4mm to 8mm helped, but it was too heavy in relation to other shoes that were available. The Alphafly 1, if I landed on my forefoot and was for the duration of the marathon, I'd be less worried about the drop, but it is a really great shoe. And but for me, the Alphafly 3, because it is significantly lighter, it's the lighter of the 3, it's significantly lighter than the Alphafly 2, marginal over the Alphafly 1. And depending, I'm wearing UK 12s, US 13s. And the bigger the shoe, the more the differential between them. If you're at smaller sizes, maybe it doesn't matter so much, but at the bigger sizes, the difference in weight between them does matter an awful lot, certainly to me. So yeah, because of the weight and the 8mm drop, this is definitely the shoe for me. But yeah, Conor Mance had a great run in these. So yeah, it's the Alphafly 1 or the Alphafly 3, not really the Alphafly 2. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. If you did, it would be great if you would hit the like button. As always, there'll be plenty of stuff in the description below, and I'll happily answer any questions you put into the comments. There'll be a big blue subscribe button popping up there, and some red videos there. Thanks for watching. Until the next video, just keep running along. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it useful. If you did,